on silent. My phone.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for another round of Master Phil in your corner with your host, Master Phil.
All right. Welcome. Master Phil here with Master Phil in your corner, and the music is pretty loud there, isn't it? There,
Yeah, we're rocking.
All right. Here with my trusty sidekick, Dougie Fresh Friedman, and we're located in the Undefeated Media Studios in lovely, very warm and sunny.
Better than it's been.
Yeah. Wyckoff, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Well, talk about Jersey. Our next guest is a Jersey guy, but we're going to get into it with our. I guess he started out as a Jersey guy.
Nice.
And one of the reasons we wound up getting along. But before we do that, we have to thank our sponsors.
Absolutely.
Okay, so first we're going to thank philross.com. Go there for training needs, virtual, online, in person, blah, blah, blah. Just go check out the site. There's a ton of training availability there. So go to philross.com. Of course, we have the Body Bell Method, also available through philross.com. It's the certification recognized by ACE and NASM, kettlebells, body weight, and dynamic tension.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah. We also have 15. Did you get your 15 stuff yet?
I still have to press this. I still have to put the credit card in, but yes, it's coming. I'm getting it for sure.
Okay. Remember, we're not
I'm
like
busy.
Yeah, we're all busy. But we're too busy for our health.
That's a problem.
That's a problem.
A major
And
problem.
I'll tell you, I'm banging out my 15 every day. I'm doing my 15 challenge right now. I will tell you, it's 15 challenge is awesome. I'm almost done with it. I've been doing over 500 push-ups and abdominals a day.
Nice.
And
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's been great. I'll tell you, I think my chest is the biggest and strongest it's ever been. It's crazy. I'm telling you. It's like bang, 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 bang. In addition to my other workouts, but if I miss a workout, I didn't miss a workout because I banged out 506 push-ups and abdominals for the day. So it's been pretty good.
Nice.
So yeah, talk about your health. Our health. You go to Health is a Wealth.
Yes.
Our new website is opened up, healthisawealth.com. Check it out. If you are a fitness trainer, if you're a doctor, you're a chiropractor, you're a nutritionist, you're an educator, you definitely want to get a membership here. We have a special right now going on, but you can join for free. And all users can join for free. Sign up. Just saw we just got a whole bunch of new people just signed up. It's pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah. Good. And while we're on the topic, today we're speaking about legacy.
Nice.
What is your legacy?
Nice.
I like
it.
And because we have a limited time on this earth.
Yeah.
Right. It's no dress rehearsal. Okay. Mm-hmm. We're here, and before you know it, you're gone. Like there was a commercial, a NOS commercial out a while ago.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. I used to love that commercial. It'd be like, so it was showing this fighter and going through a metamorphosis when he was like an old man. It's like, you're 88 and you're still punching, right? And then it shows him like as a young guy growing up, and he's drinking this NOS. And it goes, 6 jobs, 7 cars, 80 summers, and you're done. That's what you do in the in-between that counts. So you know what? What you do in the in-between is what counts. That's
Absolutely.
your legacy. What type of imprint are you going to leave on this planet when you leave? Right?
Absolutely.
So, and I can think of no better person to bring on with me than our next guest. And we've gone through our journey together in many aspects. And one of the most influential journeys I had is my kettlebell training. I met our next guest at RKC1. We went through RKC1 and RKC2 together. He's also a martial artist, big time martial artist, and he's from New Jersey. So we hit it off right away. Had a lot in common right from the get-go. But I mean, whereas I wound up doing a lot of stuff more on my own, he wound up going this route. I mean, he's done some fantastic things in every business that he's been involved in. I mean, he was at Equinox. He became the top trainer of the personal trainers. And so he was the manager for all these guys and these high end. I mean, they would have $20,000 a year memberships.
Wow.
Something like that. Maybe it was 20,000 a month. I don't know. It's something crazy. He'll tell you. The numbers that are just, that were just like just right out of my reach for that. And then he was over at Orange Theory, and he was a manager there. And now he's got this new product, and it's really cool. We were talking about it, a couple times, and I said, I have to get you on because it does actually lead right into legacy. And without any further ado, I want to bring on our repeat guest, my brother, Rolando Garcia. Come on, Rolando. Welcome.
Hey, how's it going, my brother? How are you?
What's up, baby? All right.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.
Okay.
So we're talking about legacy.
Yes.
And, we have a limited time on this planet. What kind of legacy? What are we going to leave with these people when we're gone? How is our scope of influence? So I know that, tell us a little bit about some of the things that you've done. Because just starting as the head of personal trainers, or the manager over at Equinox, how many people did you inspire to be trainers and guide them in their quest to become a great trainer?
Innumerable. In many ways, innumerable, but it's really one person at a time. And how deeply we impact one person can have a multiplier effect. So I've had the opportunity to interact. It's one thing to have people directly interact with me, but it's really through them that whatever legacy I have received from my father, my own teachers, you mentioned me being a martial artist. I'm really just a vessel, a humble vessel for the teachings that I've received and the teachings they've received. And it's really this unbroken legacy of passing on one important knowledge. And what is that knowledge about? Number one, how to become a good and strong individual. You're fighting for the right causes. You're fighting for the good people, fighting the good fight. And how you then inspire others to move forward in the same vein, so that they are now successful. They're better people. And like you said earlier, what do you do between now and those 80 summers? That's the goal. So I would say through the many hundreds of trainers and the many multiple hundreds of clients, it's innumerable, but it's always one person at a time, always one interaction at a time. How can I help you in that exact instance? I've been, to your point, a leader of a luxury club with some elite teams at Equinox. I did something very similar at Lifetime as a general manager, then as a regional manager for New York City Orange Theory, and now I am the vice president of sales for a very exciting company called Fourth Frontier, and the device is really best in class device. It's a wearable, and it is classified as a cardiovascular device that, of all things, it tracks performance so that when you're working out, but it also tracks medical in case something is going on in your heart. Very similar to a Holter monitor. It tracks AFib. It has alerts. So for those individuals who are those fitness enthusiasts, especially in this day and age, in the post-pandemic era, how there are more cardiac events now than ever, one as a reaction to having gotten COVID, or even as a reaction to the vaccine. There are just more events, but you don't even have to have a condition prior to it. So if you're looking at legacy, there's longevity tied to that, and then quality tied to that as well. But that's what I'm doing now. And my hope is that through this product and our service, the Continuum service, we can impact more lives through more trainers as a result.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring this up. I mean, this product is honestly, I think, almost essential at this point, because when we were having a discussion prior to this, I know we were talking about training with a mask on. I mean, I'm 100%. I've always been 100% against it. One of the reasons was because I used to represent the training mask. I don't know if you remember that a few years ago. Remember that? Like about 10, 12 years ago, they were big. And, I noticed that when my fighters, we had about 22 active fighters, Training Mask was sponsoring us at UFC and blah, blah, blah. And I noticed that their performance was dropping. And then 3 articles came out about how terrible this training mask was and how it actually altered your blood chemistry.
It does.
from breathing in your breathing in your CO2. And the funny thing was, when I wound up putting this information up on Facebook, when people were wearing the masks and working out, they took it down. Okay, along with the information, I sent you I sent you that information from 3M on the N95 mask, and it's the you get the hypercapnia, where it can affect you adversely because of wearing this too long, and then you put working out on top of that, and why don't you share with us some of the results that you found?
Yeah.
And look, and I think actually, please correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, you were kind of okay with wearing the mask when you were working out at one point in time until this came
At
into
one
light.
point, especially since brand new to the pandemic, everybody was new
Yeah.
to it. I personally was never comfortable wearing a mask. There was just something that was just so uncomfortable. But
Yes,
when you're
because you're not supposed to.
because you're not supposed to. But then when you're getting a Department of Health guidelines that this is what's necessary, it's a bit of a rock and a hard place. So it's one thing to have a personal view, it's another thing to implement protocol in a corporate and public setting, right? So if this is what the guideline is, that's what the guideline is. But there were early reports in those days, purely anecdotal, on, well, what is it like when you're working out and what's happening? And strangely enough, this was a pure coincidence of one of my colleagues who's a trainer who's using the device. It's called the Frontier X. The device is, among other things, it measures heart rate. It also measures breath rate, so how many breaths you're taking in a minute. But because of the ECG technology, so not EEG, where it's just listening to your heart, ECG,
Mhm.
similar to what you see in Holter monitors, kind of gives you a little more of a visual idea of the mechanism of the heart. And one of the values that we measure is what's called cardiac strain. And cardiac strain is a very interesting algorithm that we have. Depending on how many breaths you're taking in versus your heart rate, basically, if there's any difference between these two values, your heart is having a hard time getting enough oxygen into it, which is very hard to measure. So, for example, if your heart rate is low, let's say you're wearing a regular heart rate monitor and your heart rate is low, one can say, hey, you're fine. But if there is a difference, for example, if your heart rate is low, but for some reason your breathing rate is much higher, upwards of about 30 to 40 beats to 40 breaths a minute, what you're seeing is a discrepancy there. And to a certain extent, what's happening is that the tissue in the heart is not getting enough oxygen. So now what you're seeing is a cardiac strain. And you will see this value go up in one of the live reporting of the device. So here's my trainer who's educated in this, having her client do a walk, and the walk was on an incline, and she saw that the heart rate was normal. The client is saying, hey, I feel fine, but why is my cardiac strain value so high? And then what she found was that even though she seemed okay and her breathing was low, her heart rate was really high. So there was a discrepancy. Her breathing was okay, but her heart rate was high. And she said, hey, I might have to stop the test. No, I'm fine. I'm fine. But this was the differentiator. Her client was wearing a mask. Her client was wearing a mask. So she had asked her client, could you just do me a favor? Could you just lower the mask for a second? She said, well, I'm a little uncomfortable with a public setting. Just for a few seconds because I'm a little concerned with some of the metrics. Took it off for about a good 30 seconds. And that cardiac strain value went down. Her heart rate values went down as a result because now her body was feeling that it was getting enough oxygen. So this is one of the interesting values that and algorithms that the device is looking to capture, meaning we may think we're okay. We may
Right.
feel fine, but we have already started to get anecdotal evidence of those individuals who is they're fit, they're doing a regular workout regimen,
Yeah.
but then all of a sudden something happens and they have a cardiac event. But this is the important detail. It's sudden.
Mhm.
It's sudden.
Now, what we don't know, are what the long-term effects are of wearing a mask while training, especially when you're doing something that's very cardiovascular based, very heavy cardiovascular based. Yeah, jump in.
Yeah, so we're talking about this, and everyone's viewpoint of a mask is to protect you and to keep you healthy, right?
Right.
So it's right in front of your mouth, your nose, and you're breathing this in constantly.
Mhm.
Now substitute mask with smoking. Like a cigarette, we all know a cigarette's bad for you. It's what you're inhaling it. It goes into your lungs, and that damages you. And like based on what Rolando said, you might feel like you're okay. You could smoke a few cigarettes and feel like you're okay,
Yeah.
but you keep smoking, you're going to have cancer and there's going to be damage. So like we think that the mask is supposed to help us. So we think, oh no, it's impossible. But
You're breathing in carbon dioxide.
Yeah.
I will say this much, because I also don't want to take that position that it's a pro-mask, anti-mask. I don't want to take that position either. I don't think we're taking that position either. But there is a mechanism. Now we're seeing a mechanism in place where the mask can, depending on certain individuals, lead to some sort of, at least with this device and in this one instance. Now I'm not saying that this replaces any epidemiological broad-based studies, but this is one instance where we saw a direct correlation with it, and that there is there's added strain to the actual cardiac muscle. And the device was very handy in picking this up, and a good trainer too, who picked it up.
Yeah, no, excellent. And, but the thing is that what it does, it brings up discussion that should be had. Okay, discussion should be had on this.
Yes.
And again, if we're talking about legacy here, what do you want to do? You want to bring up important matters. You want to evoke thought. Here, we're the things that are lessons that we learn, and we can pass them on, long after we're gone. Like my grandfather's gone. Okay. He's been gone for like almost 26 years. Yeah, actually 26 years, right? Just about. And there are things that he had told me. He was a boxing trainer and, grew up, as an immigrant and grew up in the early 1900s. I was born in 1902. And he told me a long time ago, two things, actually three. I was at three that I speak to a lot. One is about weight control. It's about your portion, how much you eat. Okay. Two, he said, sodas are horrible. Get rid of them. Don't drink them. This is a guy with an eighth grade education. Three, he told me we're too reliant on plastics and they're going to create issues. Now, was he wrong on any of those things? And the funny thing is that this information about drinking soda or cutting it out, actually, about portion control is something that I put forth to all the people that I train, all my clients I come in contact with. It's in one of my books as well. This kind of common sense thing. It's funny because, when you're talking about diets, okay? Have you ever watched Naked and Afraid?
No.
I haven't. Right. Okay. What's a one common element that occurs on Naked and Afraid? What does everyone do?
Take off their clothes.
Yeah, well, that yes. Yeah. I don't
you
know.
Wouldn't have a, you wouldn't have a show. You wouldn't have a show if you didn't.
Right. But now everybody loses a ton of weight, right? Yes.
Okay.
They lose a lot of weight. Everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Why? Caloric intake is down, activity is up. Now, is it sustainable like that? Heck no. But it's not any fancy diet, any, thing they're doing crazy. It is kind of crazy, but the thing is, it's calories in, calories out. So if people can abide by that, you got something there. Again, portion control, like my grandfather said, part of the legacy. That he has passed on to me and that I pass it on to other people. And he also said, you got to be in condition. And I'll tell you that my conditioning when I competed, and I still keep myself in condition now, but it's because of the information that he gave me and, the tenets that he said to live by, as far as competition, keeping in shape, life skills, so forth. And that's a legacy. Like he's long gone, but it still lives on. And now the things that the things that he taught me, I'm teaching to others too. So that'll become so his legacy is part of my legacy. It'll eventually be to somebody else too. I mean, you're talking about like individuals one at a time. And now, do you have any particular stories? I mean, I got a ton of them,
I'll
but
tell you, I think that
yeah,
I love that our fathers, our grandfathers are able to pass on this type of knowledge that still stands to this day. The difficulty of health and fitness professionals, even medical professionals in this day and
Mhm.
age, because in prior years you didn't have the constant volume of contradicting information. And I think we came up with that with the mask, because on the one hand, and we saw it every day on social
Yeah,
media. There's some who say it's good and some who say it's not good, and then there's new data. So it creates this type of decision fatigue in the days of our grandfathers, because the information it was relatively controlled and inaccessible. It was okay. You could be right and you could be bold in your action at the same time. But nowadays, our responsibility as professionals, as we interact with trainers and we interact with professionals and their clients and their patients as providers, we are now also responsible in not just being right, but being bold in providing our action so that they can act on it. So, a good example of this is I recently had a colleague and we were talking about, well, what are next steps for you, what should we do for you? And that type of question is something that is asked throughout the generations. What is the next step for you to grow and to succeed? And
yeah,
in prior generations, because there wasn't as much information and there weren't as many options, you could be bold and pre be pretty spot on in what your actions are going to be. Nowadays,
mhm,
because there are so many opportunities to be bold and be wrong, there are also fewer opportunities to be right.
yeah,
If you're not bold but you're right, you're going to be late to the game. Someone else is going to be on top of it. If you're
yeah.
bold and you're wrong, you're not here. So the goal is now harder in terms of leaving a legacy. You have to be bold and you have to be right.
Yeah,
So
you bring up a very important point about being bold nowadays, because no matter what, you could be 1,000% right and be bold, and you're going to have haters, you're going to have naysayers,
yes,
you're going to have people trying to shoot you down, right?
yes,
And they could be so off base, it's incredible, but yet they're putting it out there on social media, out on the web. It's giving the detractors attention,
yes. And
and
so
they're pulling away from what you're trying to do.
this colleague of mine, just go back to when she asked her client, could you just pull down your mask for a little bit?
Right.
Speaking of legacy, she's looking at the data. The data is
Hmm.
saying something. So she made a
Right.
bold and right decision. Hey, we understand what the guidelines are, but my client is going through something right now. Can you just pull it down for a second so at the very least I can see the data? So,
Right.
despite what was going on, she made a bold executive decision that at the end of the day was
Mhm.
right. She was able to make a recommendation to this client that at the very least, at some point, if you're going to work out with your mask, it has to be something that at least our device can say isn't adding to any sort of cardiac strain. If you're going to work
Right.
out in the outdoors and you can remove your mask, I can provide you with a different programmatic outcome. But that
Right.
kind of boldness and rightness, meaning I have the data, I am looking at it, and other people may not be seeing it, but I'm
Right.
going to act upon it in an age where people's, your facts are not my facts, your truth is not my truth. In this day and age where we can say, I'm still going to go ahead and do it, but I'm going to be very careful with my facts. And once I'm careful with my facts, I'm bold with my actions. I think that's as good as legacy
Mhm.
that your grandfather left you. And I think just as accurate and just as important.
Yeah. The thing is that when we're talking about legacy, we're talking about what are we leaving behind. We want to see the scope of people that we are affecting in a positive way.
Yeah.
I mean, my thing is now, like through body bell method and so forth, and my defensive tactics programs. I want to help people live better longer. So if we can help people live better longer, and they take that with them on a daily basis, and then spread that to others, because the thing is, we don't even know if you taught someone 10 years ago and they're teaching 10 people, and those 10 people are teaching 10 people, and so forth. You don't even know the scope of what
Mhm.
you've done. The funny thing is that, and here's another thing too, and you brought something up when you said on it, it's very important to have it one person at a time. Because you don't know. You could say one sentence to somebody and it affects them
Yeah.
for a lifetime. And you may have someone that you've been with for 5 years, and you didn't influence them that much, but then you meet somebody. Not saying I'm not saying you in particular, because I think you would influence any. But if you meet someone like at a seminar, or an exchange, or a networking event or something, and you speak with them, and they grasp onto something that you said,
Yes.
that's also part of your legacy. That's why we have to be very responsible with what we're doing and what we're saying and what we're putting out there,
Yes.
because it's going to affect people.
And this is something where, aside from our New Jersey geographic locations, you and I, being martial artists, we understand the importance of legacy, but most of all, the responsibility of really reflecting on our actions, how that comes off, and what we
Yeah.
say, because people are looking to us. And sometimes it's just one comment, and people will say, there was something that you said that stayed with me for a very long time. And as a result, positively or negatively,
Yeah.
this is where we're at. I read something very recently, and I was on a conversation recently around how do we get providers, right, health and fitness providers, to
Mhm.
be able to deliver a higher service through whatever services or products that they're offering. And
Mhm.
I had mentioned that it really depends on, and the best way I can explain it, it depends on the love language of the individual that you're speaking to. Meaning,
Mhm.
some people respond to positive affirmation, some people prefer action, some people prefer to be heard, some people prefer some of that more intense debate. But it depends on you taking the time to understand the specific language that
Mhm.
you're speaking on. And there was one thing that stood out for me recently. A colleague of mine sent me this message that if you're having a conflict with somebody, and whether this is a professional setting, which tends to happen because there's conflicting interests,
Mhm.
and in a personal setting, and that tends to happen because there's high emotions
Mhm.
involved, you're going to have these conflicts. How you resolve it has a lot to do with how you manage. You ready for this? How you manage the relationship versus how you manage the personality. This was an important learning for me,
Yeah.
that instead of me just managing the person's personality and probably making suggestions on how they can change and optimize it, how do you best manage the relationship, in that instead of if this person needs you to speak as an equal or even listen as an equal, you're changing the dynamic of the relationship one at a time. And then, if in some days they kind of need you to take a role where you're a little more in charge, you're going to give them the information and the instructions they need that guidance. You can give them that platform for the relationship. But then if it's the opposite too,
Yeah.
they kind of need to feel in charge. So how dynamic can you make the relationship versus how you're trying to manage a personality? And this was recent
N-
for me. This is recent.
Yeah, that's God, you're really inspiring some thought now with me, because you're looking at it, and so you're managing the relationship as opposed to the personality. But the key to this, I would think, would be knowing when to take charge, be equal, or
Take a back seat.
follow.
Yeah, sometimes
That's
you gotta take a
that's
back seat.
yeah, yeah.
And I'll tell you
And
this
for some
much.
of us, that's a hard thing to do.
And I'll tell you this. Some of the most impactful relationships and some of the most impactful uh, work projects. All right, so work projects, workflows, but also impasses in a relationship that was
Mhm.
ultimately resolved to success had a lot to do with me. I mean, taking a stand and being clear on where I stand, but also
Mhm.
taking a back seat. So listening, but I'm not trying to change the person and say, well, you said this, you said that. I would prefer, no, let me hear you the way you are, and I'm going to take this. But
Mhm.
then in the next time we speak to each other, this person may come to me and then say, I want to partner with you on something. All right, let's
Right.
work on this together. Okay, I'm ready to hear you, and this is what I can deliver for you. And then the other one, they may come back this time. Now they kind of want you to take the lead. Hey, I need you to take the lead on this because I'm so confused. I don't even know what to do. Got it. Don't worry. Let's sit down. Here's what I think. Let me know what you think. So it's the dynamics, how we operate ourselves within the dynamics. I think that that's where we can leave that kind of legacy, because
Mhm.
I think technology has taken over so many aspects of our lives. We believe that a successful interaction comes down to how many likes, the volume of affirmation versus the
Yeah.
quality of the affirmation.
Yes. It's really funny because when you speak to the amount of likes and this, that, and the other thing, and popularity and so forth. Look, if you're trying to, I don't know, sell something, okay, and you get a ton of likes, but there's no conversion.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, great, you're popular, but you know, did you accomplish your goal? So this is the thing that I think that as a society we really have to look at now. Are we getting likes, or are we accomplishing our goal?
And
Um,
I like that you said that, because um, I'm developing something right now in partnership with many key stakeholders within my company on how we
mhm,
can help health and fitness professionals to convert those likes into something that's impactful for them, to
yeah.
not only help them become more successful, but to help them pass on their legacy. It will require a certain reliance on technology, because technology, if we integrate with it correctly, like a Frontier X that has, this wearable that gives
Right.
you the power to speak to cardiovascular, but a service platform that allows you to now integrate it with your program. It sounds very technical, but in fact, it is a very dynamic integration of your service into how you want to leave your legacy with someone. Meaning, if you want your likes, your 30,000, 60,000, 200,000 followers to convert so that you can have an impact, it's not just how many times you post a picture of you, but it's more important to give them an illustration of who they can be. So, in other words, I can post a picture of myself and everyone can like Rolando, but it's not about
Mhm,
liking Rolando. It's how looking at Rolando and then they say, there's something about him that resonates with me, and now I can be more me. And I think that's our job as health and fitness professionals, is to
mhm,
help others become more them. But I think that's going to require several important steps. One of them is an integration of technology into the overall offering, so that there's a way
mhm,
to impact those communications, and then they convert from a high level of awareness of who we are as a brand, as a trainer that has a
mhm,
brand, how that brand awareness then converts into an interest in the product and the service, so that they then convert. You can I know trainers who have 1,500 followers, but they have 100 clients, paying clients, right?
yeah.
But then you have 60,000 followers and you have no clients. So how can we now impact? And that's what we're doing now. That's I'm partnering with many important key stakeholders, highly talented people in my company, to how we can help trainers, health and fitness professionals to integrate with technology for their success, but most of all for their clients' success.
Hmm.
Some countries have actually taken away likes from like Instagram. They don't even show the likes anymore. And what they found is that people are posting more stuff that's congruent to what they're all about and what they believe, rather than chasing. They're going to post a nice picture of them in their bathing suit because they know they're going to get more likes.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that okay, when you look at it, I mean, obviously sex sells, okay? Um, and if you had me doing push-ups, showing how to do a push-up properly, which most people don't know how to do one, right? But and then you show some, good-looking girl in a bikini jumping up and down, who's gonna get more likes? Unfortunately, not Master Phil doing the push-ups. Okay, it'll be okay. But again, and now if you talk about legacy, is that what you want to be known for? I want to be known for doing my push-ups and kettlebells and striking and so forth. Well, not jumping up and down in a bikini. Although that'd be
Mhm.
kind of weird.
Yeah, you just can't. And when you're dealing with legacy, so like at the beginning, when you're first putting stuff out, it might be you might be a little more strenuous. You might be like, "Where's all the likes?" But in the long term, because you're gonna develop a better relationship and a stronger connection than just a jumping bikini.
Right.
And to
I would
that,
rather have quality than quantity.
it comes down to, because are the likes an accurate illustration of one, who you are and what you stand for? Is it accurate? The real
Right.
question and the problem we're trying to solve is, are those interactions a validation of an accurate portrayal of who you are and what you offer? And to your point, Master Phil, the legacy you want to leave behind. I imagine that, and I'm sure we've heard a lot of these before, where a lot of influencers will, about 2 years later, disavow a certain reel that they put out there, despite
Right.
how many likes they got, because it's not a true reflection of who they are. And I think that's our responsibility when we pass on to the future influencers of health and fitness. How can we help them navigate the integration of
Mhm.
technology so that the accurate information and the accurate impressions are left for the benefit of future generations?
Yes, that's why I know you've written at least one book, and I have another one coming out. This is my third one. You want to be accurate in your information because it's going to be out there forever. Same thing when you're posting something. I mean, there's many things that I will not put up on the internet because I don't want to be known for that. Okay. B, I want to make sure it's 100% accurate and that it's universal in acceptance because people are going to be looking back on that. And even if I take it down at some point, it's still out there.
Yeah.
And you know what? That misinformation aspect, I'm like, I have an aversion to that. Again, why? I don't want it to tarnish my legacy. I mean, if you go look, there's a website called bullshido.com.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Bushido, that's famous.
Yeah, yeah. And where they call out martial artists for spreading nonsense. I can unequivocally say that even though I have videos out there, I have books out there, I've done a ton of seminars and workshops and so forth. They've never put me on there, and I know plenty of people that are on it. Okay,
Yeah.
so
So there's
that's
fame. There's fame, and then there's
mhm.
infamy. It sounds like an
Then there's
infamy
infamy.
website.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's infamy. Yeah, and
Yeah,
I think there, Master Phil, you're a quality instructor, you're a quality fitness professional, and you're a quality human
makes
being.
sense.
And but of course, and I think that, to your point, there's a pursuit in infamy. And to your grandfather's point about drinking soda is that's cheap fuel. So this kind of infamy, with all of the likes, jumping up and down and whatever you're wearing, there's infamy, there's validation, but that's cheap burning fuel versus what you're talking about, which is the longevity and the honest quiet work, the quiet
Right.
achievers. Those are the ones who leave behind the legacy. And this is where, I think you and I, we've been living this, not
Mhm.
bullshido, but true
Not
bushido.
bullshit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not bullshido, true bushido. In that,
bushido.
there's a generosity of spirit, but there's a certain frugality and spareness in how lean we want our messaging to be, because we
Yeah.
also want to be direct, and that's accuracy of information.
Well, I want to, there might be some people listening to this podcast that have no idea what we're talking about. Bullshido, Bushido. So, Bushido is a code. Okay. It's a way of a warrior. It's a warrior's code of honor, integrity, so forth. Um, and bullshido, well, you can imagine what that is.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
that's the opposite side of the spectrum. So for those of you who are not martial artists, now we're talking like martial artists because we are,
Yes.
and these terms are very familiar to us, but maybe not to anybody else. So
Yes. There's a directness. There's also a directness. And that's where Bruce Lee, when he came up with his own system,
mhm.
the primary philosophy is it's also important to be direct and simple. and
Yes.
where our when we pass things on to individuals one person at a time. Here's a good example of this. You mentioned, if I have one example, I do, and this was very recent. I had a colleague that I had hired maybe about 4 years ago, brand new trainer, coming from a completely different sector, came to the job in a suit. And I thought, the job you're applying for won't require you to wear a suit. And he said, I know, but I looked you up on social media and you like your suits. All right, fair enough. So we spoke, and I mentored him through the process. And this one, I think this one, Master Phil, you will like. I remember he came up to me, and it was very, very early on in his career. And I gave him goals. Okay, this is what I need you to do. This is what your productivity should look like. This is what your daily cadence should look like. So this is how you get your clients and your conversions, right? About 3 or 4 days in, I think some of the productivity wasn't there. But about in his first 2, 3 days, he'd come to me and say, hey, you know what? The lighting in the gym is off. Or, hey, the music I'm hearing is too loud. Or I went to the basketball court and there was something happened there. I think we should address this. And, okay, that's good. Thank you for giving me this information. Then eventually he comes to me, I think on his 4th day, and then he said, they never address the lights. I don't know how we can fix the situation. And then I looked at him. I said, let me ask you about your goals, because in the last 4 days, what you've done, you've been doing things right, but you haven't been doing the right things, because you haven't been getting to your goal. So I got to ask you, I gave you a goal by day 4. Where are you at? And he kind of blank stared me, and he thought I was going to fire him. And I said, it's all right. I'm just asking you a question, because I'm going to give you the first and most important lesson in success, not just in fitness, not just in any job, in life. Don't complain. Rule number 1, do not complain. And his face got all tight on me. He thought he was doing the right thing. And he just kind of nodded, and then he walked off. About 3 weeks later, he was number 1 in the entire department as a trainer, right? Number 1.
Wow.
And then he came back to me, and because I congratulated, hey, good job, you hit number 1. And he looked at me and he said, don't complain. Oh, okay, good. Thank you. 4 years later, we're talking about this year, I engaged him in a professional engagement, and it was a think tank. And then I said that he was, a top producing trainer, etc. And he's a very, very humble guy. And he kind of nodded and acknowledged. Once the call was done with the group, he called me back. He said, I didn't want to comment on it too much, because, you know me, I'm not good in those settings, but I want to tell you something. I don't know if you know. I said, what is it? I'm an independent trainer now. I have over 50 clients. I'm no longer in real estate. I am a full-time independent trainer with my own business. And this is 4 years later. He said, it's because of you. You're my mentor. You mentored me to do this. I said, thank you, my bro, but this is all you. I haven't even seen you in 3 years. This is all you. And he said, no, you told me one thing. Remember? I said, I think I remember. He said, you said, don't complain. I took it into my heart. And so now I have this business. I'm making so much money. And then he dropped the bomb on me. I'm your neighbor now. I'm on the 10th floor. I said, wait, you can afford this now? And
My friend,
wait,
is he a higher floor than you?
He's
now?
like on a higher floor. And he goes, yeah, I'm like on the 10th floor. I said, I don't know what to say. So, congratulations. I hope it's all okay with everybody else. I'm okay with it. But it was the best way to just come back to me. But it wasn't. I spoke to him, in a very honest way, and I gave him something that resonated with him in a language that he understood. Don't complain. It was packaged right, because he was a former athlete, real estate. He just needed one directive. And he took it with him for the next 4 years and built, in my opinion, his own mini empire. So that now he's my neighbor on a higher floor. So I'm fine him taking the higher floor, because I can take some of the credit, help me with some of the rent. But anyway, the point being is that, that's how we impart. That's what legacy, in my opinion, this is just my humble opinion.
Yeah.
That's how it should look like. We say one thing that was really thought through, not meant to hurt, not meant to demean, but meant to uplift. It could be taken as hurt at first, but in time, that hurt becomes the impetus for something greater.
You know, you bring up a great point with this because a true mentor, a true instructor, a true teacher wants their students to achieve more than they did.
Yes.
Because if you can inspire people to achieve higher goals than you did, what have you done? You lifted another person.
Yes.
And look, you can easily get someone to your level or below. Okay, yeah, okay, whatever. Do you want that to be your legacy, or do you want your legacy to be you lifted people above you?
And he's literally above me.
Exactly.
He's literally above me. I just gave away the virtual reality of the screen. This is not my apartment. This looks like a bungalow. But the truth is, no, he's literally above me. To your point.
Oh, that's great. Wow.
True
Rolando,
story.
that's some great stuff. We're just talking about legacy and our time on the planet and how we're going to be remembered and who we're going to influence and how we can make other people's lives better through our experiences and our knowledge base. I mean, to me, that's what it's all about. It's as always, it's a great pleasure to have you here. Is there any last words you'd like to say before we round things up here?
Well, firstly, I want to thank you. I always enjoy speaking with you. I feel like, I'm really speaking to, a brother in spirit, a true warrior, someone I admire and respect. So I always enjoy these conversations with you. And I look forward to having more because you and I, and if I'm not mistaken, every health and fitness professional, every health and fitness trainer, physical therapist, martial arts instructor, we're all on this same mission to provide a legacy and a roadmap for others to become successful in the next 80 and I guess the next generation, next 100 to 20 years. What are you going to do? What kind of quality person are you going to be in the next 80 to 120 summers? And I'm glad I'm on this path, with you, a true warrior and gentleman, Master Phil. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Oh, before bearing that in mind, don't forget to join Health is a Wealth, talking about legacy. And, as fitness professionals or health providers of any sort, you can post blogs, videos, chats, surveys, all this stuff. healthisawealth.com. Sign up today. Great. Well, thank you very much, Rolando. And Mr. Dougie Fresh.
Yes, so that's another episode of Master Phil in your corner.
Strength and honor.